So if there's one thing you know about me is I love vintage glass, and of course the one thing I love more than vintage glass is getting a bargain. So check this lens out. It's a Meyer Optik 50 1.8. I was in a little town in an antique store, and from about 30 feet away I saw this kind of dirty, ugly camera sitting on a shelf. Ran over to it, and there this lens was. It was a practical camera, worthless, but this lens caught my eye. So for 20 bucks, I walked out of the store with this. Let's see how good it could possibly be for that money. So once I started playing with this lens, one of the things I discovered about it was it has almost a 340-degree focus rotation. I mean, literally, it starts here and goes all the way around over to here. The cool thing about that means is that you've got a lot of precise control and focus close. Literally, like 90 degrees of that turn is between 1 and 2 feet. Here are a couple of shots I did taking advantage of that precise control. An interesting characteristic about this lens is that it has a 6-blade aperture. Now I know a lot of people would probably look at that and go, "Ill, yuck, I don't like a lens like that," because what it tends to do is give you a very distinct hexagon shape. This effect I noticed on the lens tends to kick in at about 2.8. If you're more wide open, you don't see it, and then right at that 2.8 point, all of a sudden it jumps out. So it's an interesting characteristic of this lens. It's not bad, it's not good, does it play for the image you're trying to make? If you're doing a period piece or something, you want that 60s look or 50s look, well, there you go. This is the lens to go get that look. It could just be part of your visual style. And in a couple of these examples, you can see that it's added a lot of very lively background. Now, some people may find this background distracting or messy or whatever. Somebody else might come up and say, it's beautiful, I love it. This is different. I don't see this every day. And that's because all modern lenses tend to be obsessed with that quote-unquote creamy look where everything just gets mushed out into blobs of color. And I'm not saying that's bad. I certainly like it sometimes, but you may want something different, and a lens like this is an option to consider. Focusing on this lens is really smooth. It has a great mechanical feel because, of course, it's all metal. They just don't make lenses like this anymore. And the iris ring, of course, is also actually pretty smooth. The clicking in it probably on this lens is just plain worn out, or maybe it was just never distinct, but I find it's perfectly good that you can certainly do an iris change in the middle of a shot, and it's all right. A unique characteristic of this lens is how it flares. And I'm not talking so much about lights on the edge of the frame, but actually in the shot. Now, wide-angle lenses, typically, if you stop them down, it's not uncommon to get a multi-point flare, and that's kind of cool if you're down at f/16 or f/22. This lens is a little bit different. I've seen even at maybe 5/6, I'll actually get a very cool 6-point star off of it. From a 50mm lens, in the middle of the iris range, or even almost wide open, that's a very interesting effect. Some people could look at this and go, "That's junk. That's a junky lens." And other people may look at it and say, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I dig that. It's a different look." Wide open, this lens has a very interesting characteristic diffusion. It's very even and very uncolored. Some lenses, when you get them wide open, they may tend to go magenta or have some kind of funky coloring to them. This lens is actually color-wise pretty neutral wide open, and it looks great. So the Meyer Optik 50 1.8 is a lens that really surprised me. I mean, I picked it up for next to nothing, and wow, it made some great images. Very cool vintage look, wide open and shooting close. It has a very characteristic diffused look that I really love. It's still sharp, but it's got some diffusion to it, which is pretty common with a lens wide open. Certainly once you stop it down, the optical performance comes right up, and I'm just thrilled. So if you have the opportunity to grab one of these lenses cheap, take it. Don't even think about it. And hopefully my review on this great little lens doesn't send the price of these things up into the stratosphere on eBay.